Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Fat Muscle Project podcast. I'm John Gorman, one of your hosts today. We've got Lisa Franz in the house. Lisa, what's going on? How are you?
I'm very well, John. How are you doing?
I am doing great. And I'm excited today because we've probably got the most legit, badass trainer that I know, not only in person, but he's also awesome online. We've got Jace Lopez in the house. Jace, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing beast mode, John.
Your beard is beast mode. If people are watching on YouTube, I need you to understand, like, not only is Jace jacked, but he can grow a beard better than most people I know. So we're not going to talk about beard growth on the show, but you should probably get a sponsor for that, man. Like you,
Next episode.
yeah, you could sell some products. So, hey, for most people that don't know, Jace has been a huge part of Fat Muscle over the years. He's literally our standard bearer as the top coach every single year that we give out awards. We have a competitive company. We have some outstanding coaches. And Jace is always right there up at the top. And this topic today with Jace is one that he presented on at the last Fat Muscle Academy. Thought, you know what, we're going to break this down a little bit more and do a deep dive on the first half of it. So, Jace, for people that don't know who you are, go ahead and let everybody know real quick who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm 34 years old. I've been bodybuilding for about 10 years now. I've been coaching for 8 years. So it's been a fun journey. I do both hybrid and online and in person. I saw like the majority of you guys in the gym and ultimately built my own gym, and now I'm online, and now I'm in a blessed space where I have 7 coaches that work under me at my gym and 4 online. So that's super fun. But I love business and I love the gym environment. Um, as far as my topic today, I love training. I mean, I can remember me playing football in college. Like I'd be the first one in the weight room and the last one to leave because I've always been passionate about lifting weights, building muscle. I grew up a little more on the hypo side of muscle. Like I just always been like a skinnier guy, you know. So I have that big chip on my shoulder. Really make me dive into different forms of hypertrophy. I pretty much tried everything from from the late '90s to today's research here as far as what builds muscle. But having that passion and knowing that hypertrophy is what and hypertrophy training is what really separates good athletes or good physiques from great physiques, because we can talk about food, the supplements, the recovery assets, all we want, but training is what really is going to get you next level of your physique enhancement.
And you know what, Jace? I've said this for years. If you want to learn how to really put muscle on, especially once you start getting into the advanced stages, you don't always just go pick the biggest guy in the gym. He's usually the biggest guy in the gym. But when you find out people like Jace, like you said, you're tall, it's hard to put muscle on your frame. Go ask the people that not the genetically elite, right? Ask the people that really had to work hard and to fill your frame out, Jace. That's something that a lot of people don't understand, just how hard that is at your height, right?
Yeah, I mean, it took 10 years, man, of legit focused, being coached, an approach, a high approach, But I saw this thing on Instagram that said that taking advice, gym advice from a genetically elite is like taking business advice from somebody who won a lottery.
Yeah.
It's like they just have no, like whatever they're going to do is going to work for them. And honestly, it's what's so tough about social media or the gym in general is that you see somebody who looks elite, you imagine they know a lot, when a lot of times that's not the case.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
I have to say
So
that I'm surprised to hear that you have a hard time putting on muscle because when I now see you or when I met you at the beginning of the year in person, I was, you look like someone who's just like, you're just built, you're like steady. And so I'm super excited to hear your tips today. And the first one that I would be interested in is just what kind of mistakes do you see people make when it comes to hypertrophy training, but also what mistakes have you made in your past?
yeah,
Yeah.
for
So
sure.
so before I get to that question here, Lisa, let me first say that what I'm going to tell you guys are mostly things that I've derived over the past 10 to 15 years of training. The science, the meta-analysis, and the people who do the back end research, all that stuff is great. But this is what I've found over time from doing it all that works the best here. Okay, so but the biggest mistakes I see when it comes to training, number one was probably poor form and poor setup on exercises. You know. when most people lift weights, they just think A to B. Okay, I they move this bar, this dumbbell, this cable from A to B, and they don't really have any much intention behind what the actual muscle functions do. When me as a training coach, I'm not thinking of exercises. Like, if I want to build some quads, I'm not gonna say front squats, build quads, because at least you do front squats, and if she has a long femur, she's gonna end up hitching forward, and it's gonna end up working her hips more than anything else there. So we want to think movements and actual muscle functions here. So, but when people go to the gym, because they're not thinking that, they're just thinking A to B, they're going to get in the strongest position possible. And any compromise that happens within that movement on any other joint to work is going to happen. So they're not training effectively simply because their form's not good, but also the setup. If you're doing, let's say some type of hack squat, for example, and your feet are too low, they're too high, they're too wide, they're too close. You're not going to get the activation in the muscles you're trying to achieve here, simply because you're going to have an altered range of motion. You're going to load one muscle more than the other there. So I would say the top two are definitely a poor form, poor setup here. But as far as the actual lift goes, I would say poor execution. Again, if I'm just thinking A to B, I'm just lifting weights fast, slow, or whatever. Whatever feels best for me there, which of course is always the case for what's best to build muscle. So when I see poor execution, I see people when they're trying to lift weights for muscle, they're stopping, right? They press up, they stop. They press up, they stop, and doing that, you're literally killing the tension that you're building through the set there. So by you keeping that constant tension, by not locking out through the exercise until you absolutely have to, you're going to build tension through the set, but also you're going to build tightness and a higher bracing ability there to get more reps. So free weights, we can argue, we can of course say that locking out the top to reset every time and brace again is important. But if I'm doing a hack squat over like a barbell, I don't need to brace the top every single time, right? I'm literally have three bracing mechanisms. I should come down with a good tempo there. And the next thing would be a poor tempo. They're coming down too fast. They might be even coming up too slow. There's no power in their press, right? So if I'm coming down too fast, I can't even create the tightness mechanisms in the muscle I'm trying to work there to even be strong on the way up. So a poor tempo is another one. But the most basic thing I see as far as execution in the gym when it comes to training is poor breathing, right? So if I'm doing a set of 5 to 10 reps and I'm breathing for 3 of those 5 to 10, I'm not going to get the oxygen in my muscles. I'm going to create a high perception of effort, and I'm not going to create a rhythm with my reps anyway there, because whenever I inhale, whenever I put through my diaphragm, I'm literally sending a signal to my body to create tightness, right? Almost like if me and John playing football and we're about to make contact, right? He's gonna brace his body, right? That naturally sends a signal to tighten up and create distribute tension through his joints. So if I'm not doing that, I'm just going up and down. I'm gonna be wiggly. My knees can go in and out during the squats, and I'm not gonna be effective. And again, you're creating as much force possible through that muscle. And the last thing I see in the gym that's very poor is they're not resting between sets. So if I do a set and I say my intention is to get a new PR, a new personal record to create a new response, and I wait 2 minutes, I do another set. I know that as strong as I am, I'm not going to be even near recovered to be effective that second set. Our goal in the gym is to be as effective as possible within our working sets and leave. Like that's our main goal. So how many warm ups you do doesn't matter. What you do in between time doesn't matter. As long as you're being as effective as possible, no matter how long that takes in gym is our main goal in the gym here. So I always tell people the biggest goal rule comes to recovery is, hey, if you're not recovered enough to fight a bear, don't go. Rest, right? I don't have bears here in Louisiana, but I imagine there's some bears over in Missouri where John's at. And if John was going to fight a bear, his chances of winning are pretty low. John's a strong guy. I mean, I'm sure he knows that fight. He's from Springfield, Missouri, but it's pretty low. But he wants to give it his absolute best fighting chance, right? So it's like, all right, if I'm about to fight a bear, let me rest as much as possible so I'm fully recovered, not just physically, right? Like, hey, let my pump come down. Let me breathe and so my heart rate, but also let me mentally be ready to attack the set again here. Because some exercises are hard. Like if I do a hard set of hack squats, and I go too fast, mentally my body's like, oh, I'm not ready yet. So again, you want to make sure you're mentally and physically recovered to be as optimal as possible coming to that next set. So one more time, again, poor setup, poor form, poor execution, and then poor rest time between sets.
Can I bring something up here real quick? Because we'll see. This is why there's all kinds of different ways to train, and we are specifically talking about hypertrophy and adding muscle, right? We're not talking about powerlifting. We're not talking about performance training like CrossFit. And that's why we get questions all the time where, people are doing CrossFit and they want to try and add as much muscle as possible. There's a huge difference in the type of training. Like, you want to condition your body to go quickly from one exercise to the next, right? Because you're performing and it's damn near like a race, right? Well, when you're training to add muscle, it's like going to war with every single set. And people will see me training in the gym with very little rest in between sets, and that's because I'm just training to be healthy and to hold on to muscle. If I were training to add muscle like I did 10 years ago, literally resting 3 to 5 minutes in between sets, and every set that I did, it was all out effort. You question life at the very end of those sets. There's a completely different mindset, right? So I just wanted to throw that out there because we have a lot of people that, they see high rep training and very low rest, and they're business people and they're just trying to go, go, go. We're talking about adding as much muscle as possible to your frame.
Yeah, and I'm going to add on to that because when I came from more of a CrossFit background into the goal of having hypertrophy or adding muscle mass, what was new to me was exactly one of the things you touched on, Jason, that was not letting go of tension. If you're in CrossFit, like, it's perfectly fine to bounce the bar a little bit off of the ground when you're doing your deadlifts, or in your squat, like bouncing out of the bottom a little bit. You don't think about, oh, I'm going to do this slowly and I'm going to keep the tension in my glutes while I'm sitting here at the bottom of the squat. You just think like, I'm going to stand this weight up. Like, however, it doesn't matter. So I love that you mentioned that. And I think that leads nicely into the next thing we wanted to talk about, like what actually elicits muscle hypertrophy. Like what do we need to do to the muscle or in a movement in order to get the muscle to grow?
Yeah. So I'm gonna do my absolute best to make this as simple to understand as possible. So if you guys want to stop me and repeat what I said in a much simpler way, please do so here. Okay. So there's three major keys to building new muscle cells. Number one is something called high motor unit recruitment. So to each muscle fiber group of muscle fibers, there's a nerve. Okay. All muscle contractions are, whenever you contract your muscle, is an electrical signal your brain sends your spinal cord to the actual tissue muscle to contract here, and when you think of high motor unit recruitment, think of high efforts. Okay, my goal is to activate the highest threshold motor units or nerves to muscles, so I can activate the deepest fibers that have the most potential to grow. For example, my bicep here, I have some big biceps. Not every muscle, not every fiber in there actually has potential to grow. Some of it's type 1, some they're made for different functions, right? So for example, my low threshold motor units, the group of muscle fibers that I can activate, that's if I grab like my Diet Coke, right? I'm gonna grab my Diet Coke, I'm gonna curl it to my whole arm here. That's gonna be used there. Okay. Our body's main goal is survival. It's not gonna expend a bunch of energy if it doesn't need to, right? Because it needs energy to run from a tiger when necessary here. So the only way I can actually recruit my high motor unit I have high motor unit recruitment is through high effort in exercises here. Okay. So that means I'm literally trying to lift either the heaviest amount of weight possible or push past failure there. Okay. Second thing is high degrees of mechanical tension. So we can't talk about mechanical tension without talking about the force velocity relationship, meaning that when I'm lifting weights, my force has to climb, my velocity while I press or while I contract muscle has to slow down. So if I'm doing a bench press, I want to see that rep speed on the way up slow down and by cutting in half. Whenever that involuntary slowing of the rep speed occurs, that means my body's creating high amounts of mechanical tension and sending a signal to actually create new muscle fibers here. Because again, to build new muscle, it's not actually like people think it's trying to create little micro tears in muscle to build back stronger and build scar tissue, all this stuff. That we don't want to tear muscles at all here. Okay, it's actually a signal your brain sends a muscle to split the myofibrils, the little small muscle fibers, to create new ones, new smaller ones to build up over time. That creates new contractile proteins to contract at a higher level here. Okay, so I want to have a high amounts of mechanical tension, which is done through training close to failure here. Okay, I don't have to train to failure, but at least close to failure there. So again, when that rep speed slows down, that's when I know I'm in a good spot here. Okay, the last thing is the low levels of fatigue. So when we talk about fatigue mechanisms, that is such a general statement. People think fatigue is like you just not sleeping well, or you being tired after a long day at work here. There's actually multiple. I mean, I would even say tens, about hundreds different pathways of fatigue, from your brain to your nervous, from your spinal cord to your nervous system, to the actual muscle fibers, to the actual molecular base of the calcium ions going to the cytoplasm. So it's very in depth. But if my fatigue is very high, everything I'm trying to accomplish will not happen. For example, let's say I do CrossFit workouts and I'm highly fatigued, right? I have high lactate. I have my cardiovascular system's taxed. My body temperature's up, right? I have high amounts of calcium ions in my cells. So now my ATP can't convert fast enough here. Okay, by the time I go work out, high motor unit recruitment cannot happen, and mechanical tension will not happen because, again, fatigue is so high here. So if you see a real bodybuilder, somebody who really chases hypertrophy, the only thing they really do is train hard. They train hard in the gym, they go home and they rest, because again, they're trying to rest optimally for their next workout there. So again, that's how important it is. So again, having these low levels of fatigue, while managing fatigue as much as possible within your workout and outside your workout, while having those two high amounts of effort and training close to failure, is what sends a muscle building signal.
That's awesome. I like how you split that into those three categories. And for me, the first one, I always kind of clump it in my mind as in like a neurological adaptation. So essentially, I think if when people first start off with lifting, much of the progress that we see occurs due to that neurological adaptation, where we're just priming our nervous system to like even know how do I execute this movement? Oh, okay, I can actually use all the muscle that I have, or so creating more of those motor units in order to execute the movement properly. That's kind of like how I like to think about that first category. Is that kind of correct?
Yeah, no, you got it, Lisa. And Lisa, let me not leave this stone unturned here. Okay, I said those two things. Those are very important here. Okay, as far as the mechanism of building muscle, the absolute foundation of those three is getting stronger.
Yeah.
If you're not getting stronger, you're not building new muscle cells. For example, like let's say Lisa is doing glute thrusts. She did glute thrusts at the Fat Muscle seminar, right? Let's say she's doing 3 plates on a barbell for glute thrusts for 10 reps, right? And she trains to failure. So she has high motor recruitment. She has mechanical tension. She's not fatigued. Awesome. Well, let's say I see Lisa next year and she's still doing 3 plates for 10 reps. Did she build new muscle there? No. Right. She just maintained that muscle there, which is still great in some cases here. So again, we have to have some form of progressive overload, and we have to get stronger to create this new adaptation of new muscle cells as well.
For sure. The point that I love about the mechanical tension, the second point that you raised, is that we can really achieve that in so many different ways. I mean, it can be in the form of slowing down the tempo and you increase your mechanical tension, or you can be in the form of adding more reps or whatever. I think that's where people often get hung up on in specific numbers, when we can actually really increase the tension, even with body weight movements or isometric contractions and so on, in various ways.
Well, so mechanical tension can only happen when you're training close to failure. And so another thing we'll get into here in a minute is rep volume, right? So how many reps should I do in a workout here? If you're doing more than 15 reps, which of course would be a bodyweight exercise, something really light, you're actually not creating enough mechanical tension, if of course you're a trained individual, to adapt from here. So people
Right.
were like, use this booty band workout for to build new muscle. He's like, if you are trained, let's say you've been training for at least a year, you're gonna have to train at a lower, heavier rep, lower rep range at a heavier weight to create the mechanical tension necessary to build new muscle here. Because again, John probably benched 350 pounds at some point in his life, right? John's how old are you, John?
47 now. So 10 years ago, yes, I could. 10 years ago.
Yeah. And I mean, he's been working out for over 10 years, for over 20 years, right? Him doing push-ups with a band is not going to elicit any type of response to build new muscle cells there. So mechanical tension can only happen in a stable environment, because if we're doing if we're doing barbell squats, right? I've been doing barbell squats I did it for 10 years. I've been doing 5 years, right? Compared to a hack squat machine, I'm going to build more mechanical tension on a hack squat because there's higher level of stability. So I get closer to true failure rather than me doing on a barbell because of stability, because of balance, and of course of high perceived levels of effort.
For sure. No, I like that you added that, but I do think like of course we can create mechanical tension even with 6 reps and you get very close to failure, or you can create mechanical tension with 15 reps and you're close to failure with there as well. So that's kind of what I meant in terms of having a room to play.
Gotcha. Yes,
But yeah, for sure.
yeah. Awesome. And,
Yeah.
and also, oh God, what do I want to say? The only reason you fail isn't because the muscle failed. People are like, oh, my muscle failed, or they think there's other forms of failure, right? Of course, you know, there are certain forms of fatigue, but our body fails simply because of high perceived levels of effort. Meaning, if John's sprinting, he's doing a 40-yard dash here, you know, and like he's exceeded his ability to run, you know, at a high pace, his body's naturally going to send signals to slow him down so he doesn't cause an injury. So he wear himself out. He doesn't exceed his ATP levels or how much he can reproduce there, you know. So when you're in the gym and you're benching, you know, or you're doing a chest press, you know, you're not failing because the muscle failed or you hit some type of other failure mechanism. You fail because your body's its levels of perceived effort have come up so high that's going to shut that set down there, you know. And people are like, well, no, Jace, you know, I don't believe that here, you know. If you don't believe me, try this. Try doing curls, like 2 dumbbells, you know, like grab like 40-pound dumbbells, okay, go curl to failure, you know, like maybe 10 or 12 reps, whatever it is for you, you know. And once you literally can't get another curl, drop 1 dumbbell and you're able to curl 2 or 3 more times with the one arm there. It's not, you didn't get stronger automatically, you hit failure, right? But it's because that level of perception effort went down. Your body actually was like, okay, well, look, he's safe again, let's send more signals to create a little more force here.
Yeah, and I do want people to understand we're talking about mechanical tension and growth, and we don't want people to think you shouldn't ever do high reps, you know, reps of 20 or 30, because there is a part of hypertrophy that's cell swelling, but you can't just get by on cell swelling forever. Like that's a tiny little part of this whole overall thing. And sure, you can get some muscle growth out of cell swelling. I know a lot of people that have, but at some point you hit the point of diminishing returns, and that's only us, and it's usually for people that haven't been training for a long time. They're going to get those benefits. Just getting mechanical tension out of a super high rep, like good luck with that. And that's why this is so interesting to me, Jace, when you're talking about, you know, between 6 and 15 reps, and you've got something on here. Lisa, you're probably about to get to this, but it brings us right to this next point, is the last 5 reps. Like in the theory of the last 5 reps, you do a really good job of explaining this. And to me, this is what I think a lot of us, myself included, we don't think about this. And this to me should, honestly, I would say, be the basis of everything outside of getting stronger. If people take this next concept that you're going to break down, the last 5 reps, and they apply that and they go in there with intent, this is going to make a big difference, I believe.
Yeah. So what John's talking about is actually a model created by Chris Beardsley, who I look up to. He's a really big guy in the muscle physiology field, and he has a model called the effective reps model. And basically, what John said is like the last 5 reps of your set, that of course to failure, are the most effective for muscle growth because it has high amounts of mechanical tension and high motor unit recruitment. So, you know, if we think about different rep ranges, if I'm doing 15 reps to failure, okay, or if I'm doing 5 reps, if I know the last, you know, 3 to 5 reps are most effective in a set, if I'm doing 15 reps, I don't really have to do those first 10. Right? Like the first 10 is almost like a warm up, you know, like I wouldn't count a warm up towards my total volume, right? I want to count with my effective reps there, you know? So we want to train in a lower rep range to accrue more effective reps while decreasing our fatigue. So whenever I do high amount of reps here, other fatigue mechanisms come in. Like I mentioned, calcium ion accumulation, which creates a negative feedback to your brain to stop the set or stop energy creation. But there's also lactate. There's also, you know, oxygen, right? You know, there's other factors that affect your execution of higher reps there, you know. So us training in a lower rep model, and we can even argue. So if so they've done studies. We say 5 reps because it's actually 4.4 reps per set was like the average made analysis for the effective reps model here. But if you want to do even 3 to 4 reps, even 1 rep can be an effective rep, right? So it's like we don't want to put it in a box here. But just know that the last 3 to 4 to 5 reps of your set to failure are the most effective for work for actually creating the muscle build response.
For
That's
me, that raises the question then if we should be pushing it to that last rep out of the 5, so to failure essentially every single time, or do you work with the RPE scale? Do your clients work with the RPE scale?
That's great, Lisa. And RP is awesome. I love being able to gauge effort and perception of it. I think it's more important for more trained individuals who are more advanced. Your first 3 years of training, you're not going to know what failure is,
yeah.
right? You're still climbing the motor recruitment ladder. So think about this. Whenever you first start training, you ever see somebody who's like really big, they have a lot of muscle mass naturally, and they grab like 20-pound dumbbells, they're barely able to lift them. You're like, how are you this big and that weak? It's
Yeah.
not they're that weak. Their body hasn't unlocked the ability to recruit high threshold motor units yet, right? It's something that happens over time. I would say anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So if you are new to lifting, by means just train to failure, you're fine there, right? But if you are more advanced, scaling your perception effort in your top sets is going to be key there, because they actually did tests, EMG tests or electromagnetic tests on muscles. Your last rep where you're just barely getting up, you're fidgeting, you're shaking, you're doing stuff here, is actually the least effective one.
Yeah.
Your first effective rep, or let's say you're doing a set of 7. Okay, so rep number 3 is actually most effective rep towards muscle building, right? And it kind of diminishes from there as you close to failure, simply because your body's recruiting less and less motor units as the set goes on there. So I would say that for most people, training with an RP 8 or 9% would be ideal. Also, if you're doing a set, if your first set's an RP 10, you train to failure, right? Let's say the rep speed cuts in half and you're barely getting up here. How effective is your next set going to be? Not very effective, right? Because you're just so smoked. I mean, it's gonna take you 5 or 10 minutes to recover. Then you try to go to your next set, and because you expended that, because you got that 1 extra rep, you actually lost 3 or 4 reps your next set there. So again, as long as you're training close to failure, I would say leaving 1 or 2 reps in reserve your first set, and then maybe get a little closer to your next set, getting a few reps, you're fine there. Which also brings to the point of how many sets should I do, Jace? Should I do 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 sets? I would say you should do 1 to 2 sets per exercise. If it's a muscle you're trying to build, and based on your programming, it's only getting, let's say, 4 to 6 sets per week of training. Let's say it's your glutes or chest. Probably want to do more volume there. Probably want to do 2 sets, right? But let's say it's a muscle that you're trying to maintain. Like, for example, I have a big back, right? My back's fine. I need to bring up other body parts. I literally do 2 top sets of back per week, and that's all I do. And that's like 2 different workouts. So only 1 set there. Because that's like the least stimulating doses to actually maintain the muscle. So I would say for majority of people, you don't need more than 2 sets, and if you do, you're trying to build a skill, or you're not actually. That third set is literally just junk volume.
I will
Jace,
say that's actually surprising to me in the sense of the amount of the sets. I do think it sounds like it's on the lower end, but of course it also depends on how many times you're training that body part per week, right? Because if you're doing a body part split and you're only training that body part once, 1 to 2 sets might not be enough to stimulate any hypertrophy.
Yeah, so they've done studies. 1 to 2 sets per week maintains.
Mhm.
So anything above that builds, right?
Mhm.
But I mean, how many sets do I need to actually build a muscle? I would say for most people, if you're pretty strong, like 6 sets, so you're trying to prioritize a muscle, like 6 sets per week is totally fine. So for example, if Lisa's doing glutes, that could be 2 sets of glute thrusts. Next exercise, 2 sets of split squats. Next day, let's say 4 days later, she does, abduction machine, and let's say some type of squat variation there. So that's plenty enough for her to grow glutes. She don't have to do 6 or 10 exercises per week to grow them, if she's training with those 3 variables there of high motor unit recruitment, mechanical tension, and lower fatigue.
Jace, for people listening that they haven't been training this hard, they've been training what they feel is hard, but now what they're going to do is they're going to take their current volume. Maybe they're training 5 days a week, most body parts twice a week, and they're going to keep that volume the same. But they go in and they apply these principles, and they notice that they're immediately trash, they're immediately under recovered. And they're also trying to put in their mind, because I've had clients reach out to me and they say, hey, now I'm spending 3 hours in the gym. And that's because they're applying these principles, getting plenty of rest between sets. But now they've strung this out. Would you recommend cutting your total volume down since your intensity is going up and you're doing more on that end?
Well, so put this way, John. Progressive overload is a huge variable for our progress, right? If the last two exercises of my workout, I'm not getting any more effective reps. I'm not like actually progressing. I don't need that right there, right?
Right.
So I think they're actually doing too many exercises in their training. So I would say for most people, 3 to 5 exercises per workout is perfectly fine. Right, within 1 to 2 sets per workout there. So if, for example, if you're doing a chest day or a push day, you're doing 2 sets, you're doing 2 exercises for chest. You get, say, incline chest press, chest fly. You go to a shoulder press, a lateral, and then maybe you try 2 triceps. Right, you do like a compound tricep exercise, like a dip, and then an isolation exercise, like a tricep extension here. If your tricep extension and your dips are literally not progressing, you probably need to cut down one of the 4 exercises in front of there. So again, you tracking your exercises and make sure across the board over time you're progressing each one is how you find your best volume there. Because where you started might not be where you end up here. So if I start a whole new block, let's say right now I'm doing a push pull legs, where now I'm going to upper lower twice a week, right? Well, I might be able to handle these new movements at first because I'm still progressing. I'm having neurological progressions, not really strength adaptations yet. But as I get stronger, that fatigue's gonna climb up. So later in the workout's gonna affect me. So like, I think people are saying you're affected not at the beginning, but in the second half of workout. So like if Lisa sleeps 5 hours the night before, it's like, I'm going to train legs. First exercise, she's pretty strong, but it's going to taper off really fast there. Because again, her body's less recovered. That after feedback is higher, and her level of perceived efforts a lot higher as well there. So again, tracking your movements, finding where you're progressing at, where you're not progressing at to cut that volume is going to help you do that. But also I think people are trained too often as well. You miss train 5 days a week. I think 3, 4 to 5 days a week. 5 days would be like the top I would recommend anybody train. Whenever we train, our body has to create some recovery process, right? It's recovering, damaged muscle spindles, ligaments, and then the day after, I'm able to actually go towards muscle protein synthesis for the new muscle cells, right? Well, if I'm training 3 days in a row, that third day, let's say that fourth day, how much am I really building new muscle? I'm really not from even the day one workout there. So I tell people, like, I would never train 3 days in a row. I would do with this model, 2 days on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off, or maybe 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off there. So our goal is to have high recovery, not simply because we want to be a strong workout, but simply because of the recovery process. We can't hack it. We can't cheat it. And we have to put our body in position to have high muscle protein synthesis the following days.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I think, if I had to really if someone put truth serum in me and they're like, what do you think the ultimate schedule would be for someone a week to train, grow the whole 9 yards? I think if 1 day on, 1 day off, honestly, if we could all it's hard to do that with 7 days a week though, because none of that shit fits right. So like but I would say, I think train, recover the whole next day, train again, recover the whole next day. We don't see a lot of that out there, especially in our world. Like, to get someone to not go to the gym 5 days a week, at least for most of it's hard. Like they mentally just want it. So it's like, but I think you bring up a very important point, Jace, is the recovery of your joints and tendons. A lot of people don't think about that until they're my age. And then you have to think about it because you're either fighting an injury, you've had an injury, or you just hurt all the time. And I think that's something too. I know that's not on our notes, but I wanted to ask you about is when you're working with people a little bit more advanced age, right? You know, probably mostly natural people, right? That I think this is going to hit them a little bit harder as they age, not someone on TRT or anything like that. How are you managing the recovery from the joint and tendon perspective? Because that's important.
So somebody who's advanced in age and let's say they're really strong, right? They're still getting after, still trying to build new muscle. I would have them train 3 or 4 days a week. and
Yeah.
I would manage their volume a little more spread out. So instead of having a full push day where we do chest, 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 shoulder, right? Maybe spread that chest day out a little more, spread it out, beginning in the week there. So we're not causing as much damage per workout there. Essentially, I could do a chest press on Monday, and come Thursday, another chest exercise, and come say another chest exercise. It's gonna, normally people do that in one day. I can spread out throughout the week and actually create more effective reps there because fatigue's lower and recovery is higher there. Really it's just managing their trained volume, and also and then ask them for their biofeedback. Maybe the inflammation and the joint pain isn't from actually the program. It's actually from them being stressed out and having high inflammation.
Good
Maybe it's
point.
their jobs demanding. Maybe they're walking in some boots all day and now their ankles hurt, right? So we as coaches, we want to take all various consideration and adjust training as needed.
Good point. Really good point.
Are there any other things in terms of fatigue management other than like training day distribution and stress management and so on that you are really big on?
People ask me about certain peptides, not CJC,
Yep.
oh, like I can't think of the peptide right now, but these peptides or these supplements that promote better joint health, better recovery. Our number one foundation for recovery is sleep.
Yeah.
If you sleep well, everything you're gonna be, again, we can't hack the body. We can't cheat certain things, and when it comes to muscle building, especially at this rate here. So if we just sleep 8 hours a night, maybe even 9 hours, we're as optimal, we're going to be there. But I would say if you're like, man, geez, I do feel this way. I do feel like I'm overdoing it. I'm tired. I'm getting the gym. My digestion's a little off. I have like 3 good weeks and have one bad week. I get weaker. I'm not really progressing my movements anymore. Try doing the least amount of volume as possible. So if you normally do 12 to 15 sets per workout, do 8 sets. Just try it. Have higher intensity within those sets and the more intention, and just see how you feel over 3 or 4 weeks. I promise you, you're going to feel better. You're not only going to progress your exercise further, you're going to get stronger, but also you're going to look better too. When you're strongest, normally you look your best, right? So if we could champion strength and recovery, we're going to look our best, feel our best, but also actually make real progress over years' time.
Love
I
it.
think that, yeah, that's a really good point in terms of the minimal effective volume. Let's put it, or I mean, of course, ideally we want to find the optimal recoverable volume and not necessarily the minimal. But when it comes to that, we of course need to get rid of some junk volume that people might be doing. How do you foster through their program and then decide what's junk volume, or how can we get rid of junk volume?
And can you
Well, so
define junk volume? Because some of our listeners may not know what junk volume is.
So junk volume is any volume you do that does not go towards effective reps, essentially, right? So again, if we're doing 15 reps, we could consider the first 10 reps junk volume. Even that's one of our top sets. So it's any volume you do in training that doesn't go to your top sets. And it's even why even when we warm up, let's say, for example, if I'm doing a hack squat, I want to do 4 plates. If I have a plate, if I put a plate on there for my first warm up set, I'm not gonna do 20 reps, right? I'm gonna do like 5 or 6 reps. I want to limit even my warm ups as much as possible to prevent as much fatigue coming to my top sets. But when people come to me, number one, for Lisa, I build their training plan. It's like that. Let me say that whole discussion already. But if for example somebody sent me the workout plan, like, hey Jace, where can I clean this up at? I would first ask, like, all right, what are you progressing? And also what do you actually feel is being effective, right? Because like if you get to the end of your workout and you're doing triceps at the end of a push day, and you're just like going through motions, you're just trying to get a pump or some type of other feeling rather than progression. That'd be considered junk volume there, So I think it's more so just explains to them why they wouldn't want to do that first, and ask them what their goal is, because in the gym people ask me so many questions like, Jace, what do you think about goblet squats? What do you think about this? What this? The first thing I say is, what is your goal? If they say anything other than to build as much muscle as possible, I'm like, you're fine, have fun, right? But if they tell me to build muscle, let me educate them on literally 100 different reasons why they wouldn't want to do that exercise or that rep scheme or this program in general.
Thank you. I think that's a really good answer. And I think also sometimes when I consider junk volume, not just unnecessary exercise, but also exercise execution. So like if you use a lot of momentum for certain things, even though you shouldn't, or you mentioned earlier, like reps where you're losing the tension, that's kind of like you're doing more reps than necessary, but not getting the most bang for your buck out of what you're doing with your time there.
Well, let me also preface this, Lisa. This is very important. That training in a lower rep range is a skill. You can't just start doing that your first year or well at any point, you know. I've been training for over 15 years. I've done powerlifting, I've done strongman, I've done CrossFit, I've done you know all the performance sports, you know. And I would say that training in a lower rep range is the hardest one because of the intention you have to have, but also the bracing mechanisms you have to create. I mentioned breathing earlier. The breathing mechanisms you have to do as well. So you'll see a lot of people who I don't like training heavy, Jace. It hurts, or you know, I'm not strong, you know. It's like you're just not mature. You're not mature enough in that rep range or that weight yet to even have an effective set. So maybe train at higher rep range initially. I mean, why when people first come to us, we're like, hey, do 10 reps, do 15 here. We're trying to pattern that movement to where they create a neurological connection with it. Over time, they can progress it to where they're actually building muscle here, you know. And another good point is, you know, for me, let's say John, for example, he benches, you know, 315 on incline barbell, you know, and one day he's like, hey, I'm gonna try some incline dumbbells, you know, first time ever, you know. His first time he's got like the 6 pound dumbbells. He's like, this is weird, this is awkward,
Yeah.
right? You know, but the next time he grabs the 80s, and next time he grabs 100s, next time he grabs 120s, and he's gonna get strong really fast there. But now let's say he gets to like 130s, and now he plateaus. He hasn't progressed in like in 3 or 4 weeks. Well, now we're building muscle, right? From the progression of 60 to 80 to 100 to 120, he didn't build any muscle there. He just built a neurological motor pattern, right? You know, so you know we want to think like when it comes to progressions that when you plateau, awesome, yes, now we actually build some new muscle here, you know, and muscle and training really does have a relationship. As in, like if he's strong on incline barbell, he should be doing about this much weight on incline dumbbell, you know.
You know,
Mm.
there's something interesting too that people don't realize is, especially when you're starting out, just getting better at the rep, right? Getting better and doing it over time and over time, because you get better, you know, in powerlifting, bench press, right? Like there's times where I would train, you know, sets of 1 to 3, right? But then on other days, I would train in the 10 rep range because I was getting those reps in. I was getting better at the movement with lighter weight and I was perfecting the lift. Then when I went to lift heavy, you're stronger because you're better at the lift. And I think it's kind of that same concept too, is, you know, you can do some other sets and you're in the beginning and you're getting actually better at the movement, which is going to allow you to get stronger because you're better at the movement under heavier weight.
Yeah, yeah. Your goal is to get so good at the movement that the only way you get stronger is if you build new muscle cells.
Yes. There you
So,
go. That's perfect. Yeah.
It's
and,
so
and
it's
essentially, progressive overload means that you already got stronger, right? That you already built the muscle. So, for example, if John is doing incline dumbbell, he does 130 for 6 reps, right? Well, next week, if he does 7 reps, that doesn't mean he built it. Oh man, I just got stronger. I said, no, bro, you got stronger from my last workout. That's an adaptation you created last workout to show that you create new contractile proteins to move this new load here or new rep range here.
I love
I
that.
think it's so funny when we think about weightlifting, most people don't think of it as a skill. Like if we think of golf or like whatever you're like, oh yeah, of course it's a skill. But like if you think of executing a squat or a deadlift, most people just think it's just something that you do. Or even on the machines, it's still a skill, absolutely. You mentioned velocity earlier. I just want to backpedal just a tiny bit. And because do you ever use like velocity-based assessment tools in the sense of determining when there's no longer an effective rep or anything like that?
Yeah, so my clients send me train videos. So all my online clients, you know, because I can't see them train in person, they record their first top set. You know, the most important set, should I say? You know, because number one, your first top sets, let's say you create 1 unit of muscle. Okay, your next top set, you create like a quarter. It's like you create like a unit and a quarter there. You know, people think like, you know, that second top set is just effective at first. It's actually like less than a quarter effective. Actually, you know, it actually takes 5 more sets to create the same effectiveness as a first top set if you did it right. Okay. So it's in that first top set. So, and within that first top set, I'm able to see, okay, how close they're trained to failure, you know, but also they're seeing their numbers. So if they do, I say I'm coaching John, he's he's on an incline dumbbell chest press. He does 130 for 6. Well, next week he does 137. He'll write down there 130 for 7 plus 1. Okay, good. We're seeing progressions here, you know. So I can coach him on, hey, next week, bro, hey, stay here and give me 8, or hey, let's slow it down a little bit here and keep your elbows in a little more to make it better execution, so we get more effective there, you know. So yeah, them seeing videos and me seeing in person really does help for me see that slowing of the rest speed to make sure it's being effective.
I've
Awesome.
got
Thank you.
I've got and Lisa, if sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. If you're done, I've got a couple follow-up things here that I added to the notes. The first one is we're going to have people, they'll always ask. So we've got an expert on the show. Okay. Your thoughts on cheat reps, even though I know what you're going to say, there are people listening. They're like, well, what do you think about cheat reps at the end of a workout to get some extra quote unquote volume or some extra work in? What are your thoughts on cheat reps? Maybe for curls, for example, somebody's trying to build their biceps.
Okay, so I would say that any cheat rep or force rep, you know, let's say you're benching, for example, when somebody grabs your elbows and gives you 3 extra reps there, you know,
Yeah.
that the goal of weight training is to go to task failure. It's your natural ability to go through the full range of motion. Once you can no longer achieve once you can no longer achieve the task, you're done there, you know. So anything outside that is not only not being effective, you're actually creating more fatigue mechanisms. So, for example, calcium ion, I mentioned that it creates negative feedback to your brain to output less force, right? So if I'm doing my first set of chest press and me and my buddy get to task failure, right? He got my elbows like 3 more, Jace, you know, and we get 3 more. Not only am I not actually creating a muscle building signal because now they grab my elbows, the mechanical tension has drove down tremendously, but also now I'm getting a stretch position further and creating more calcium ion accumulation. So literally, you're hurting yourself, not helping yourself.
Mm. And then finally, Dante Trudell is someone that I just think is freaking awesome, right? He started DC training back in the day. He just concept way ahead of his time. And he always preached, listen, go beat the logbook. Have a certain set of exercises, right? And you push, 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 and you try and beat the logbook every single time you train. And there's deloads in there when you get to the point where you're just actually starting to go backwards. You deload, and then now you try to beat the logbook again. What are your thoughts on trying to beat the logbook or adding weight every single exercise for people that are listening and they're trying to think, okay, so where do I need to go next?
So if progressive overload is the only way we could build new muscle cells and not just maintain, I would say the logbook's a great way to track to make sure you're progressing over time. You know, to try to beat the logbook every single session is a great way to get injured. Right. So, for example, why do people tear muscle or get injured? Is because they load on too much weight with not enough warm ups, or it was just too heavy for them. Right. You know that muscle muscle spindle couldn't handle that negative feedback from how heavy it was. Right. So using the logbook as a tool to see over time you're progressing is great. But I do like the mindset of trying to PR every single session. So, example, if I go in today, I have legs here in the next hour and a half. I have hack squats, right? My top set 7 plates for like 6 reps, right? I'm gonna try to get 7. I might not get 7, but that's my intention, right? So my intensity is high. I'm gonna say, hey, my goal is 6 here. No, I'm gonna try to get 7 here. Watch this. So I'm actually getting more reps back to back, and my intensity is higher there. I might not get it, but again, that's my intention there. So I think it's like a double-edged sword to track your movements over time, see progression, but also to have the mindset to try PR every single workout.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you're saying essentially then is you should be beating the logbook, doing all these things with intention, and
Yes.
it should be your tool to track. And you look back to make sure that you're making progress. You're not going in to try and beat the logbook every time. You're doing all these things to execute, and you should be beating the logbook over time.
Overtime. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. You know,
I
so
like that.
John, this is my last competitive season. I'm gonna do a show in March, and then I'm gonna start doing MMA. Right,
Yeah.
I'm a very competitive guy. I love
Yeah.
competing. Right, so I've been training jiu-jitsu and kickboxing, all that fun stuff here. You know, well, once my body weight drops, I'll no longer be able to do heavy weights anymore. Right,
Right.
so essentially, me not creating a new stimulus, I'm not gonna build any more muscle for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah, so building muscle is actually a fleeting thing that's very hard to get. You know, if you look around the gym, I go to any gym right now, I would say that 98% of the people in there are just maintaining. No
Mhm.
matter how they look, how intense they are, if you're not being as precise as possible and accurate and chasing this with the utmost intensity, you're not building new muscle as a trained lifter. That's why so many people they get to a certain place and they literally never look any different for the rest of their life.
And I'll add to that, I think that the one of the mistakes, aside from the intensity and the way that they train, is that they don't pair it with a periodized nutrition. They just think like, I'm going to continue to train hard and like whatever, just let my nutrition be wherever it is, or I'm going to eat quote unquote healthier. And however, that doesn't work out for most people.
Lisa, that's a totally different podcast on its own self.
Yes, exactly. We'll just have to have you back on, Jace.
Yeah, I've been doing my absolute best to keep it strictly to training, but yes, that is 100% correct.
Well, this has been one heck of an episode, Jace. We don't get you on here enough. We need to get you on here quite a bit. Do some Q&As, just talk about, because you can literally talk about anything and everything under the sun. So if you guys want to follow Jace here, if you want to reach out to Jace, all of his contact is here in the show notes. Lisa, I think you and I talked about some upcoming episodes. Everything's busy on our end. We are literally selling out of all this Halloween stuff literally within a day or two of launching it. And I'm having to get emergency orders and refill. And we've got other business things that we're about to announce behind the scenes that we can't talk about. So podcasts have kind of taken a back seat. So we're going to start filling the holes with some Q&A. So Jace, you are welcome to come back on for a Q&A. We're going to have some other guests. Lisa, anything else that you want to let the listeners know before we log off?
No, I'm just grateful to have had Jace on the show today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. Awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah, this has definitely been fun. It's one of those things to where, Jace, the more we can get you on, the better. Let everybody know real quick where your gym is, and if people ever want to swing through, they can stop in to get a workout in.
Yes, my gym's in Youngsville, Louisiana. It's right next to Lafayette, Louisiana. Actually, one of John's clients, Warren, comes to train quite often, which was really
Yeah,
fun. But if you guys want to come get workout in, let me know. I love training people. I love training with people. If you're interested in coaching, my social media is Jace_Lopez_ on Instagram. You just shoot me a question. I love questions. I love educating people. As much as people want to build a big following or have a big business, and our goal is impact here. And if I could make a small ripple in this fitness industry of how to train correctly and how to do this the right way, that's my main goal.
Yeah, you're highly successful in all avenues. So definitely reach out to Jace. For myself, Lisa, and Jace, you guys have a great day. We'll see you next time.